They say that art is subjective, and I completely agree with that logic. However, there are some scenes that manage to leave such an impact that even the haters would have to give them credit. On that note, here are the top 30 most epic scenes in the movies.
Without incident. I'm coming.
This is the start of the video, so you can rest assured that it won't just be a random moment, at least not without incident. I've covered this scene a fair number of times, and I'm well aware of its flaws, but come on now. Are you really going to look me in the face and tell me that John Preston doesn't look awesome while he goes completely berserk with his guns? There's no denying the fact that this movie is a guilty pleasure, and this shootout is its highlight despite not even being the final fight. Looking at the way John Preston breaks loose, it almost felt as if Patrick Bateman went so American Psycho that he just randomly decided to bring down a totalitarian state all by himself. Some of the sequences in this battle are over the top for sure, but I'd be lying if I said they didn't enhance the viewing experience. Man, John Wick would have loved John Preston. They even share the same first name. Harry's a very classy guy until he gets hypnotized and ends up killing dozens of people in a church. Yeah, I cut straight to the point because bro shot straight to his point here too. Just imagine this scenario. You have only one hypnotized human being with maybe a couple of pistols that actually belong to him. And then you've got a church full of hypnotized psycho and holy people out to get your life. The result of this scenario is one of the most epic action sequences of the 21st century. It's absolutely bonkers, and I actually spent a great deal of time counting the number of kills Harry lands here. From my estimate, it's around 46 people, which included 8 women too. Yikes, that's a crazy rap sheet for a man who's otherwise one of the most sophisticated people you'll find on the planet. And of course, the rage goes perfectly well with Freebird. I have to mention that almost as if it's customary for me to do so. If you hear the word epic, then you can bet your bottom dollar that Denzel Washington is going to show up from somewhere. The Book of Eli is mostly a forgotten film, and I say the word mostly because this one scene is what keeps it so relevant even today. Artistic choices can always improve a scene, regardless of whether it's violent or not. Here, instead of clearly showing Eli's murderous actions with detail, the choice to have this fight scene shot as some kind of shadow battle was pretty cool, and this was before solo leveling was even a thing. The point I'm trying to make is that in the universe this movie is building, morality is kind of a blurred line, so to present the main character in a similar way only further resonates with the tone of the film. Plus, it makes him look super badass while he's slicing up his enemies too. For what it's worth, at least Eli isn't the one who makes the first move. 2017 theatrical cut. However, with an added tinge of sass, Kal-El is able to flex in a way so epic.
Get off my plane.
Harrison Ford sure likes to play the role of president, doesn't he? Well, I won't include Captain America here, but Air Force One definitely deserves a big mention. The final sequence of a very thrilling experience was very satisfying to watch, especially for yours truly, who managed to sneak into the theaters and watch this when I was just 10 years old. Yes. The movie was rated R for violence, but your boy's being a hustler right from the start, okay? Anyway, the epic part of this scene isn't the fight, but rather President Marshall's legendary line, "Get off my plane," to Gary Oldman, who plays a Russian named Ivan, because apparently, as per most American films, all the bad Russians have the same name. Okay, to be fair, Ivan is technically from some neo-Soviet state in Kazakhstan, if my memory serves me right. That doesn't matter, because he was one heck of a villain. Anyway, let's make Harrison Ford the actual president of America in the next election cycle. He's acted well enough for the role. What's the harm in giving him a shot?
Smile, you son of a...
Steven Spielberg really outdid himself with this classic, and he gave everyone a reason to fear the ocean as well. Luckily for us, the end of the movie also brings about the end of Bruce the Shark as Martin Brody manages to make it blow up, just like the 4th of July. You know, minus the blood and shark remains. While the actual moment isn't more than a few seconds long, it's the build-up to it that makes people so excited and hyped. We've seen this shark wreak havoc for the majority of the movie, that too without even showing himself most of the time. Bro even took Quint down, which is an excusable sin. So yeah, he just had to go. Spielberg was a relatively unknown name at this point, so people didn't really know what to expect from him. Who knew that this would be the same man who'd go on to give us classics like Jurassic Park, E.T., and the Indiana Jones franchise? The jury may still be out on whether the earlier Mad Max movies were better than Fury Road, but there's one thing that even the haters can't deny. This sandstorm scene was easily the most visually appealing sequence from the entire franchise. So, I've already covered how intense and dangerous the scene is in the context of the film's narrative, but I don't think I've given you background on how the team was able to create this moment. As per the VFX supervisor Tom Wood, they used a combination of real-world filming and post-production special effects. The initial storm sequence, including the vehicles being swept up, was shot on location in the Australian desert. After that, they enhanced the size and intensity of the dust and added visual elements.
What a lovely day!
Like inverted cones with spinning textures to represent tornadoes. Yeah, the actors do a fine job here. The real MVP is the sandstorm without a doubt.
Made them myself. They fit perfectly.
I don't think the Spider-Verse movies will ever be able to recreate the feeling we all felt when Miles Morales took a literal leap of faith. The sequel was good for sure, and I'm definitely going to watch Beyond the Spider-Verse in theaters as well.
That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
But when you see a hero achieve his true essence in a scene that may seem unrelated at first, you can only wish you experience it for the first time again. The background track booming out "What's Up Danger" as Miles makes the jump sent shivers down my spine. And the animation, as always, was just mwah. Yeah, the director was cooking when he made the one slow motion set of frames in the middle of the jump. He knew the audience would go crazy at that one single part. And then the whole web slinging bit too. Man, I don't even think I felt this excited ever since I saw Tobey Maguire learning how to use his Spider-Man powers all the way back in 2002. If you don't like Jurassic Park, then you're either way too scared of dinosaurs, or you're just straight up lying. I refuse to believe that there was a human in 1993 who saw this movie and went, nah, this is mid. The T-Rex breaking out of the paddock remains the most iconic moment in all of dinosaur movie history, and I'm telling you, it's not even close. I remember watching this as a kid and being excited while also being scared for my own life. The amount of hard work and dedication it must have taken for the entire crew to make this scene a possibility cannot be understated. The animatronic was an achievement in itself, but they also pulled off the most captivating sequence in a PG-13 movie. I mean, the T-Rex became so popular that she even got her own nickname, Rexy. Not just that, they brought her back for the Jurassic World franchise too. Think about it, Rexy has appeared in more Jurassic movies than any of the OG cast members. All of this is definitely cool and all, but I sure hope Colossal Biosciences don't get too carried away with the success from their dire wolf experiments. You really need to have some serious issues if you need to beat down 10 karate black belts to resolve them. Then again, I'm not going to question Donnie Yen's methods because I don't want to end up like one of those karate kids. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is when Ip Man is at his prime, so the final outcome of the fight isn't even that hard to believe. The only problem is that the way Bro violated 10 supposed masters of their craft, I don't think anyone would ever want to take karate lessons ever again. I think we also need to understand the background of this rage. He doesn't hold back here because he's just witnessed the horrifying end of his dear friend, thanks to the general. But yeah, you could say that this was the moment that helped establish Donnie Yen as a global master of action movies beyond his fan base in Asia. I did mention this in my early videos, but that was a while ago, so let me ask you again. Let me know another scene where it's just 3 guys staring at each other for 4 to 5 minutes, but you're stressed out of your mind. It's not like I'm trying to challenge you either. If there's something that replicates this epic moment, I'd love to know in the comments. Anyway, this one sequence from 1966 had everyone going through every emotion they could conceive right until shots were fired. Clint Eastwood really was something else, and it's a shame that the modern generation will never know what it was like to watch his movies back when he was in his prime. Of course, I too fall under that category, but at least I love the dude. Also, I don't think I realized this before, but I believe the fact that Tuco didn't shoot at Blondie does say a lot about him. He may have over time grown to like Blondie and chose to shoot at Angel Eyes instead of him. My theory could be wrong, but what's the harm in assuming a little bromance? Yes, I'm part of the crowd which believes that Die Hard is actually a Christmas movie, but with guns and explosives involved. I guess that'll always be a raging debate, but anyway, the scene I want to bring to your attention is the epic jump that John McClane performs against the backdrop of a really good-looking explosion. Guys will look at this and definitely be like, heck yeah! The scene is actually written quite well too, because the 2 main characters find their motivations interceding here with a common denominator. John McClane has to save his wife and the other hostages, whereas Hans has to improvise now that his initial plan has been foiled by McClane. It's a great way to present the finale, and with the FBI guys also coming into the picture, the stakes get raised instantly. Man, they really need to make more movies like Die Hard again, and not via the typical bait and switch method that Disney and Netflix seem to love so much. War movies can definitely hit different, especially when you film them in unique ways. Stanley Kubrick sure had a knack for the genre, with films like Paths of Glory and Full Metal Jacket diving deep into the psychology of war. Then you have Sam Mendes, who likes to give us epic shots that look like they've been done in a single take. The main credit for that actually goes to the director of photography, Roger Deakins, who's done films like Skyfall, Blade Runner 2049, and No Country for Old Men. Now, while the creators may have used clever shots to make it seem like a single take, you can't deny the fact that this scene makes your heart race rapidly. Of course, it's a very somber and depressing vibe as death surrounds everyone on the battleground, but such is the magnitude of war. We could all at least empathize with Blake and Schofield regarding what must have been going through their own heads. We should all conserve the environment because it's the right thing to do. That is, of course, unless there's an epic fight going on between Gen Yu and Master Li Mu Bai. Now, the fight is obviously top class, but there's something about witnessing it in the surroundings of such beautiful sceneries that makes it a lot more appealing to me. There were some crazy stunts for sure, but honestly, watching a fight in a serene forest seems to hit a lot harder than if it were in a dojo or even in a city. Master Li doesn't even look like he's trying, but full credit goes to Gen Yu for not giving up when she could have easily felt like she had no chance against him. I guess I'll never understand how human beings can fight on top of bamboo trees because it doesn't look easy, and I'm sure it'll be a lot harder if you try it in person too. Well, John Wick is the epitome of badass action movies in the modern era, so it was always going to show up here, wasn't he? The red circle sequence really did prove to us what our man was capable of once he actually put his mind to it, and the results totally lived up to his reputation, even though I'm sure Mr. Wick has committed much more heinous assassinations in his prime. You know, as an avid cinephile, I've easily watched thousands of movies, but the one moment when John Wick starts walking into the crowd and the music slows down is amongst the best aura moments ever. This man is unstoppable, and the best part is that he's not shown as some 7-foot-tall Thanos-level bodybuilder. He's a regular guy who knows how to eliminate his threats in the most effective way possible. And if you ever doubt that as a viewer, this scene perfectly backs it up. Honestly speaking, this sequence and the whole movie in general redefined the genre in the 2010s and still remains a crucial point of reference for action movies today.
Pushing out of orbit? Come on, baby.
It's funny to think that Interstellar and John Wick came out in the same year, but I suppose that's what the balance of life is all about. Honestly, I never thought I'd hate a Matt Damon cameo as much as I did this one, but if it weren't for man's diabolical mess up, we wouldn't have gotten such a goated docking scene. Matthew McConaughey totally nails it, especially when he answers Anne Hathaway's "it's not possible" with "no, it's necessary." The visuals are beautiful as expected, but Jesus Christ, this sequence really takes your stress levels up a notch. What gets me every time is that Case couldn't even calculate or fight what the heck Cooper was planning to do, and then when Bro made his intentions known, it calculated the possibility of a successful docking as impossible. Based on what eventually happens, this is what separates human and AI: hope and sheer will.
Let's just hope there's still someone there to save.
Can't feel the next. See? You wanted me. Here I am. I wanted to see what you'd do.
Hey look, it's back-to-back Christopher Nolan films. The Joker's amongst the greatest villains of all time, and he's got multiple scenes from this movie which prove that statement. Let's have a look at the interrogation scene to get a better understanding. What starts off as Batman ridiculing the Joker for his methods quickly spirals out of control and ends up with the Joker making the Dark Knight dance to his tunes. Sure, he's getting beaten up and stuff, but this is exactly what he wanted. He wanted Batman to show his true self, which in this case is pretty close to that of a mindless beast. Using Rachel as the catalyst to reduce Batman's sense of clarity was a genius move, and the eventual bamboozle had an even greater impact as the villain never intended for the hero to save his damsel in distress. It's super evil for sure, but it's also super epic.
Look at you go.
You know how much of a fan I am of the Lord of the Rings franchise, so the charge of Rohirrim was sure to find its way in at some point. Man, I get chills every single time I watch this scene because not only does it showcase one of the pinnacles of cinema, it also brings back a lot of pleasant memories. God bless you, Theoden, for your speeches, because you sure know how to rile up your men to give us epic final battles. Now, if you don't know this, Theoden's actor, Bernard Hill, came up with the iconic sword-clinging ritual by himself. The man is a true legend who totally represents the term understood the assignment. You really won't see anything quite like this ever again, so hats off to Peter Jackson for giving us such a gem of a scene. Back in 1956, movies weren't like they are now. People would lose their minds even if they saw a dude pulling out a gun, so the bar for excitement was on a different kind of pedestal. Here, they got to see the Bible getting acted out in front of them, so it was a special moment for hardcore believers. Now, even with the special effects limitations of the time, the fact they managed to show us the parting of the Red Sea was nothing short of legendary. This was a scene that had everyone shivering with joy and, in a way, enlightenment. Honestly, your personal beliefs shouldn't matter when it comes to watching scenes like this one, because the craft on display is universally praiseworthy. Just hearing the line, "Behold his mighty hand," alone was enough to certify this scene as a classic.
Who shall withstand the power of God?
I mentioned Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in the Miles Morales entry, so I guess he decided to drop by so that he could kick off my top 10. One can never underestimate the appeal of the train scene, as it kind of cemented the OG films as classics. The raw emotions that are associated with this scene are a lot more impactful than the strength we see from our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter Parker's identity has been exposed by a lot of the passengers, but personal preferences are put aside to give the audience the ultimate display of sacrifice and perseverance. Yeah, I know that Spidey doesn't give his life here, but he does save everyone else's, and that's what makes this sequence so epic. It would have been higher up the list had Doc Ock not decided to come in and ruin the party. You know how some people say there'll always be a light at the end of the tunnel? Well, you better pray to God that that light ain't Darth Vader turning on his lightsaber at the end of said tunnel. You know, sometimes it's just better to watch a villain be a villain, which is exactly what Vader does here. He has a proper rage moment right at the end of the movie, and none of the viewers were prepared for the awesomeness that was to follow. The usage of his lightsaber skills alongside his usage of the Force both mix very well together and give us the perfect kind of sequence which would suit a villain of this scale. Imagine showing this to a person who doesn't know anything about Star Wars and they ask you when the sequel's coming out. 1977 would most definitely not be the answer they're looking for. It's been a while since we've seen Tony Montana on this channel, so here he is with an epic scene and an even more epic line. The 80s were a wild time, and Al Pacino's character personified it perfectly with his own life story. Of course, all the money and the respect wouldn't last long as we see Tony lose it all after making it all. This scene may end with his death, but not before he wreaks total havoc and makes a statement. Sometimes I feel bad for him, you know. He got the power he wanted, but lost friends, lovers, allies, and even family. One of the scariest things in the world is a person so far gone that they've got nothing else to lose.
Say hello to my little friend. Wanna play
Well, look at that. It's my old friend again. The hallway scene from Oldboy may be one of the most used sequences in my videos, but the level of respect that it commands is way too high for me to ignore. Plus, I can keep talking about how epic it is for days on end. Funnily enough, this is the most enlightening moment in the entire movie because the only thing that old Daisu experiences after this is pain. Well, his opponents here also experience the same thing, but it's nowhere close to the kind of trauma Daisu and the audience had to deal with once the plot became clear to us all. You know how Morbius became a huge meme because of the whole "it's Morbin time" gag? Well, Avengers Endgame became the massive global hit it is today because of the final fight scene which basically did everything but scream, "It's assembling time."
Avengers!
Look, we as the audience were kind of expecting it to happen, but that's where the entertainment factor comes in. The Russo brothers really did outdo themselves the way they managed to time the arrival of the fallen characters of the previous movie, save for Vision of course. Sorry Wanda. It was a moment of euphoria that rages on even today because the MCU hasn't really given us much to celebrate since then. Steven Spielberg seems to know a thing or two about making unforgettable classics because his filmography is just loaded with them. Saving Private Ryan started off with a scene so devastating that it's hard to forget, even if you felt uncomfortable watching it. The Omaha Beach D-Day scene captures the true horror of war, where there's no guarantee of survival and still you've got to march on. Seeing Captain Miller and his men giving it their all in such dire circumstances really does leave a mark on you. Makes you wonder what true PTSD must be for the soldiers who've actually come back from such atrocities. Kudos to Spielberg for being able to convey such emotions via a motion picture. The Matrix was able to leave a mark on humanity, not just because of how it feeds into all kinds of conspiracies, but also due to some landmark action sequences. The establishment of bullet time was easily the most reused concept from the film, and we see it executed perfectly in the movie. My favourite is obviously the rooftop scene where Neo goes on to dodge bullets, only to be parodied countless times later. I also want to shout out the lobby shootout because even though it's more slow motion than bullet time, it still captures the essence of evasion in a similar way to how Neo does it. This is peak Thor. This is Aura Farmer Thor. This is the true God of Thunder Thor. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth will never be able to feel the way he did when he pulled this one off because there's no way anyone in the MCU can replicate that vibe, not even Thor himself, especially in his current state. The Wakanda entry is easily the most epic scene from the MCU so far because it rallies the crowd right when they feared something adverse would happen. I mean, they did witness Loki dying, Hulk getting violated, and Thanos ending his own daughter, so it's not like an obliteration of the Avengers was off the cards. But having said that, the God of Thunder did what he did and became immortalized in the form of a legendary entrance. What? Did you really think that I'd let the Lord of the Rings only get one entry on this list? Heck no. The Battle of Helms Deep was always going to be number one. I decided the rest of the entries later. Can you think of a more epic scene than this? Can you think of anything more relieving than seeing Gandalf turn up plus 1,000 aura points? Or anything more inspiring than Theoden's speeches? Well, if you can, then let me know in the comments because I sure as heck haven't seen it. The cavalry charging at the enemy will forever remain a classic, and there's no amount of botched TV shows that can ever tarnish its legacy.
Theoden King stands alone.